Thank you very much. I have to say I'm slightly disappointed that you told them, because I think it's a brilliant title for a talk. and I want to go with that one instead. But I'll tell you anyway that the talk that I had come up with, I thought I was going to ask you, what would it be like if everyone in your life was interesting and attractive? So, because this is the theme, isn't it? That's not the theme. Radical beauty. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I conclude that everyone in your life is interesting and attractive, and I hope you will soon start noticing that. But this other title is so much better, because what I want to talk to you about is improvisation and how I learned a lot from improvisation. So not knowing how long I've got to decide seems to be really in keeping with that spirit. I have no slides, so I don't need to point at anyone and ask for anything. Because I'm improvising. So a tiny bit about me. I'm a writer by background, and my next book happens to be a historical novel about Queen Anne. Now I know, what does anyone know about Queen Anne? Like anything at all? What do you know? Chairs. Yes, that's what everyone says, Queen Anne chairs. Nobody really knows much about Queen Anne, but let me tell you something really sensational about Queen Anne. Really, it's quite sensational. She betrayed her father, who went into exile. He cursed her, and from then on she lost all 17 children. All 17, really, that's amazing to me that more people don't know that. So I think it's a really strong story, and so I'm writing this novel, and I've been writing it for a long time. It's quite a, wow. But that's not really what I want to tell you about. I want to tell you about an experiment I did while writing the novel, when I got almost to the very end, and I started to become really interested in theatrical improvisation. And I went on training courses with this genius called Keith Johnston, who teaches it and who's been doing it for years. And I learned lots of interesting things with the people that I was playing with. And I learned that actors' games can teach us a huge amount about the way that we are with people. And you know, what does that mean? But the different ways that we have of interacting, the sorts of things that Philippa was talking about, what's really going on when we're doing small talk. And you sort of, when you learn improv, it's a bit like learning to wear a special pair of glasses that teach you what's going on. And so I want to tell you a few of the games that we played. And I hope that I will demonstrate by the end that the people around you are all interesting and attractive. One of the games that I love, that I'm very scared by playing, but it's really exciting, it's called the Rejection Game. You have 4 people on stage, and one of them has to be rejected, and it mustn't be you. And the very thought of it. And so can you imagine, you play any scene, it doesn't matter what the scene is. The first time we played it, there was a sofa in the middle of the stage, an armchair on either side. Can you imagine how vulnerable the people in the armchairs felt? Because if you turn to this one over here, then how's that one going to feel? What does it even mean to be rejected? In Queen Anne's life, it meant to be cursed by your father and to end up dying alone without any of your friends. That's pretty bad. But we're all in a constant process of playing the rejection game. We can't help it. We're all paying attention to these lovely people, and how does that make you feel? Do you see what I mean? So the rejection game is a constant balance about who are you playing with and who are you not playing with, and how do you feel about that? Who's not playing with you? So we played this game in lots of different iterations. We played once, I came up with this scenario where we were all in a meditation room. I thought no one could possibly be rejected if we're all sitting meditating with our eyes shut. And I was such a chump, because I sat there with my eyes shut so innocently, and when I opened them after about 5 seconds, I saw the other 3 were all going and poking each other and having a game, and I was left out. And the thing was that when we played the rejection game, the first few times we played it, the person who's been rejected does feel a little bit hurt, because there's an audience, and no one wants to be seen to be rejected. So Keith always told us that they'll only reject the people they know who can take it, because they know that those people have got lots of friends, and so it makes you feel slightly less bad that you've been rejected. But what was really interesting, after playing it for a little while, I discovered that I didn't mind being rejected at all. In fact, that one with the meditation, I just laughed a lot and went, I see what you guys did there. And it was quite funny. And a lot of the time when we play the rejection game, when people start playing the rejection game, they think it's all about learning how to be horrible. But actually the game teaches you how to be included and how to make other people feel included. What do I mean by that? Shall I give you an example of how one of those games worked? A very quick one. We were at a bus stop. 3 of us at the bus stop. The other one was going to join us, so that puts him in a vulnerable position. I'm one of the ones at the bus stop. Steve, the one who's coming in late, Steve Chapman, came in and he said, "Oh, guys, you don't have to wait for a bus anymore because I've got my car." And we all sort of went, "Oh, great." And he said, "But there are only 2 seats." And because I was the one furthest away from him, I was the one who was most vulnerable. Do you see what I mean? So, what am I going to do? And I don't know where it came from. You never do know when you're improvising, but you just go with it. And I said, "I'm really sorry. It's got to be me because my wife's about to have a baby." And so obviously I moved past the others, but I happened to catch the eye of Janine, who was playing with me, and I could see the cogs turning in Janine's, and she went, "And I'm his wife." And so, and so I took Janine's arm and moved towards Steve, and that left Robert looking terribly much like he was going to be left out. I mean, how could he not be left out? He hasn't got the car, he's not us. But he took Janine's arm, which made Steve look like he wasn't being very nice. So me and Robert are walking Janine towards the car, and Steve's looking a bit cold. And then Robert had a brainstorm. He went, "And the bus has just arrived." And so now Steve with his car's looking a bit, so we decided to exclude him. We said, "Who are you anyway, you creepy guy?" And he said, "Don't go on the bus, come in the car, it's much better." We said, No, we don't even know who you are. So he lost that game. But the point is, you see the ebb and flow of being included and not being included, and that happens all the time. And what's amazing, when you play the game, the audience can see things happening that the people on stage can't see. People on stage, like everyone really, are actually probably really nice. And so they don't want to reject anyone. So what typically happens is, if you have the 4 people in this, am I in the light where I'm meant to be? Probably, because I'm dazzled. All the people on stage don't want to really reject because they think it'll be very unkind and not very nice. So what typically happens is you have the 2 in the sofa and they're talking over here, and they know that this person over here is feeling a little bit like, "Am I a ghost?" And so one of the people on the sofa, the nicest person, will just go, just like that, and that little glance is enough to bring them back in. And the audience groans and goes, "Oh, she saved him." The audience is brutal. They don't want to see anyone being saved. But that little glance is enough to save someone. Isn't that amazing? So I suppose what I mean by saying that this stuff teaches you useful lessons for life, that means that if you give someone just a little glance in life, not just in improvisational games, you can save them. So if you have someone who's very shy at your dinner party or something, you don't want to say to them, "Come on, give us a song, don't be shy." That's not going to help them. But if they're feeling a bit awkward and you just go, that could save them. Do you see what I mean? So there's an interesting little skill that you can pick up. So that was the rejection game. And I got so excited playing with these guys who are so naturally brilliant and talented because they were willing to improvise. We all know how to improvise. We're all doing it all the time. Did you plan what you're doing right this second? We're all improvisers, but in the context of playing with these guys, I had this brainwave. I thought, I'll play with them around the subject of Queen Anne. I will invite them to help me finish off my book by just hiring a room, a bit like this one, get lots of improvisers and get them to play the scenes. It was amazing. It was the most creative and delightful day of my whole life, and I'm so grateful to all of them and so moved by what happened. They knew nothing about Queen Anne. They knew nothing more than the chairs thing. Thank you, Fiona. But they were willing to play, so I'd give them the tiniest bit of information. This is the bit where Queen Anne receives the curse from her father. And that would be it. And then they'd play the scene. It would be amazing. It was really amazing. And I wondered, why was that? Why were they so good at it? And it was because they had the actors' genius and understanding for knowing that we make other people what they are. We might think that other people are like that or like this, and these are our projections, the sorts of things that Philippa often talks about. We think this person's an authority figure, so we behave towards them a bit like that. And if we've heard that someone's a bit violent at parties, we stand a little bit further away from them, and so we make other people see that in them. If I act as if I'm totally overwhelmed by delight with someone over here, then everyone else will think they're really lovely. Do you see what I mean? So I make that person like that. If there's a terrifying dictator, we all bow down before them and make them look terrifying. But if we get up off our faces, we stop them looking terrifying. So we have the capacity to make other people what they are. And you can do that in lots and lots of different ways. We always have the choice. And so what I'm asking you to do is to be curious about what are the stories underlying the way that you interact with the people in your life. What is it that makes you feel about them that they're, I don't know, an authority figure or an opportunity to get a raise, or that they represent something? Because I promise you that if you behave towards them in a way that you think is quite professional, something will still leak out. How am I doing, Fiona, on time? How long have I got? Oh, fantastic. Then I can tell you about the party game. Shall I tell you about the party game? I played the party game in a prison. Okay, so I went into a prison and did a workshop on improvisation, and it was really exciting and scary. These were long-term offenders, and they didn't want to play games at all for a while. And it was quite depressing. But on the other hand, once I had done enough to abase myself and look hopeless, then they were willing to play. And we played the party game. And in the party game, what happens is, broadly speaking, this is so cool because I can actually see the clock now. So now I know how long I've got. So in the party game, you have 4 people, and I say to them, oh, would you just improvise like a party or something? We just put on a party. And so they do a party, and bless them, they do their best, but it doesn't look much fun. So I turn to the rest of the room, the audience, and I say, would you like to be at this party? And most people go, not really, because it's a bit flat. So then I ask them to do it again, and this time I ask each of the members of the party, there are 4 of them, I will ask them each to try to be something, and I'll whisper them a secret thing to be. So you be the religious person, you be the sexy one, or whatever it is. And so then I ask them to do that, and it never quite works, because if the person who's trying to be sexy always is assumed by the audience to be vain, you can't quite pull off the thing that you're trying to be. Does that make sense? So they think that being sexy means going... and so then I ask the audience, what do you think he was meant to be? They go, he looks like he's very vain. That no one thinks he's sexy. Because the thing is that the sexiness comes from other people putting it on him. Do you remember what I said about the king and the dictator and all that stuff? So how does it work better? So we do a third version. And in the third version, I ask them all to look at each other. And by the way, I've completely stolen this game from Keith Johnson, but I did name check him earlier. So I asked them to look at each of the other people on stage, and I will say, this time, it's not about you. You just be you, doesn't matter. But I want you to really remember about these other people. So look at one of them and decide for yourself, that person is known to be violent at parties. That person is religious. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. This one, you're in love. This one, everything they do and say is just hilarious. So the way that the people that perform towards the other person confers that on them, and it makes them look like that. So then I ask the audience, they go, oh, no, that was the funny one. And everyone can see it at once. So the point of what I'm saying is that you decide what you want to make the people around you. You have that choice. You decide what you want them to be like, and then you go and do that. So you do have a choice about the story that you're projecting onto them. This isn't about being fake. I really want to emphasize it's not about saying, oh, go and pretend that someone's sexy or violent at parties or whatever it is. It's about noticing the projection that you have already and being aware of it and thinking about how you might want to change it. Not doing something that feels wrong, but just thinking about how you could do it differently. So finally, this is completely back to front. I want to demonstrate something that you could do to train this and to show people how that works. When you're thinking about the way that people around you are interesting and attractive or not. So I might have started this talk by coming in front of you and having told myself, I'm going to retreat out of the light for a second. I might have told myself that this audience is really actually horrible. And so I'd come forward and I'd say, hi, hello. And you see how it leaks out? Because I really believe it. And so I might be trying to be professional, but it's leaking out and you're thinking, don't like this guy very much. And I'm not going to enjoy this talk. And so then another thing I could do, instead, retreating out of the light again, I could go back out and I could say to myself, oh, wow, this time I'm going to go in and I'm going to notice how interesting and attractive they all are. Hi. Hi. And I hope that makes you feel a little bit better. The point is that you can make anyone and everyone interesting and attractive. You just can't do it to all of them at the same time. So I hope that you'll go and notice that all the people in your life are interesting and attractive. Thank you very much.